I just wanna go out on a walk with you. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you. You don't have to tell me anything that's new. I just wanna go out on a walk with you. I just wanna see your shadow next to mine, sailing over pavement with our two outlines. I like to see the shape you're in from time to time. I just wanna see your shadow next to mine. I just wanna see the same things you can see, understand the meaning on a new degree. Maybe that could happen when you're next to me. I just wanna see the same things you can see. I just wanna go out on a walk with you. Could be 20 minutes or an hour or two. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you. I just wanna go out on a walk with you. Baby, you know I just like to talk.
Whoop whoop. Hello, literate people. Welcome. Today we're talking about The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. A near perfect work of art, says Joyce Carol Oates, the lady who invented oatmeal. Looks like 36% of you read the book. More of you than who watched the Oscars. That's a surprise. I would have guessed more Oscars watching than book reading. It's impressive. You should be proud of yourself. I love this book so much. I guess that's the next question. Okay, I was gonna ask, should we talk about the book first or talk about the Oscars first? But we can talk about the book. And I don't think it will be or I shouldn't say. I don't know. I don't think this will be a very long discussion of the book. I did like the book. What book, what Oscars? Yeah, most of you just don't know why you're here or what I'm talking about or what you're talking about. I wonder what percentage of you are in a mental institution right now. I felt like it was slow to start, but I ended up really liking it. Okay. I agree that the first and second half of the book felt very different to me. We'll talk about the book first, and I'm going to ask you if you liked the book. If you read it. If you read the book, did you like The Bell Jar? And like's a bit of a strange word for this because it's a really tragic book about a young woman who is deeply depressed or has bipolar disorder, or is at the very least very depressed. And I think one reason a lot of people respond to the book or that it resonates with them is that the first half I think can be read in a very relatable way of I'm going to make a bunch of blanket statements in my discussion of this book and just realize I sort of know I'm doing that. It just makes it easier to talk about it. But I think a lot of young people, and by young people I mean people in their 20s who are maybe going to university or leaving the house for the first time, I feel a lot of anxiety or sort of dread about what they're doing with their life and what their future will be. And so a lot of the beginning part of that book, I think, resonates with people in that more universal way, that in a modern society, maybe especially for young women when women didn't really have these options before, or their paths were more sort of laid out for them to just, marry somebody and be the wife of some guy, and that was just going to be your identity. Like the book starts with a pretty ambitious young woman who's clearly intelligent. She's a writer. She's studying literature at school. And she wins a prize to do an internship basically at like a women's magazine in New York, which should be this incredibly exciting, fancy thing. But she's clearly miserable all the time. And she doesn't really relate to or get along with the other people there. It's interesting. Her inner monologue seems very extroverted and outgoing in a way, but she is clearly distant and closed off from the people around her. But yeah, I would say this first half of the book is very much about that feeling that I think a lot of people have, that I had in my 20s, of just there's a really kind of beautiful metaphor early on in the book where she describes all the possibilities before her like a fig tree, and every possible future before her is like a different fig on that tree. One fig is she could have a bunch of fabulous affairs with exotic romantic men, and another fig is she'll go on to be a accomplished poet. Another is that she'll be an editor. Another is that she'll go travel. Another fig is she'll just go marry that doctor who wants to marry her even though she thinks he's a big hypocrite. So but she's paralyzed by this choice. It's this it's like the paradox of choice. The more choices in front of you, the more you don't want to know what to do. And so all the figs just sort of fall off the tree and die, sort of thing, I relate with the character quite a bit, but for some reason didn't hit with me. Yet strongly against wanting. Yeah, she doesn't like children. She clearly, in her nature... Tell me if you disagree with this take. I actually want to get into this a bit. Clearly just being at home and popping out kids isn't for her. But it almost seems like part of her wishes she could be happy with that. Am I projecting something onto the book? Or onto the character? I might be. It's probably just more important to say that she's clearly not of the persuasion to be happy with that. But it does seem like a lot of her problems come from it just being difficult for her to pursue her non-traditional ambitions, but also from the fact that she does have these possibilities in front of her that it's not that she doesn't have the means to pursue them, it's that she's like paralyzed by it. I got Gabe vibes from her. The thing is, towards the end of the book, she's so the second half of the book is her in a mental institution as her mental health greatly deteriorates. And at one point, another woman in the mental institution makes a romantic gesture towards her. And it seems like she briefly considers how that would be a nice alternative to men and to not have to deal with men who are big babies. But it's clearly not for her. And she says something kind of mean to the lady for her to get the hint, you know? As I was maybe this is just reflects me and my poor that I haven't read enough books. But as I was reading this, I was kind of thinking of The Catcher in the Rye a little bit. Mostly in the sense that I always thought of that book. The Catcher in the Rye is a book I read when I was a adolescent boy, and it resonated with me a lot at that time in my life. You know, everybody is a phony, right? And it's sort of about that adolescent angst of growing up. And I think that's a book that if I read today, I would find it very juvenile and annoying. I guess I see a bit of a parallel in this book that... First, I mean, she is older, but I also just think of adolescent women as being more mature than boys. So it sort of gave me the foil of like, oh, what would be like a female coming of age story of struggling with the idea of being an adult? And this book felt like that to quite a degree, but just with a much heavier mental health aspect, I guess. But yeah, it felt like there was a bit of a foil or a parallel there. Did they ever catch that Rye? He was catching kids. He was worried about protecting children who might run off the cliff running. He's trying to catch the children, I think, is the symbolism there. I don't remember that book super well, to be honest. I guess it would be weird to talk about the Bell Jar 2 without... Well, first, the title just refers to this idea of being trapped in a bell jar is like a glass dome you put over something to restrict its air, I guess, or protect it from the environment. And it is just sort of a metaphor for how she's feeling. That, you know, no matter where they take her, to what mental hospital or what environment she's in, she feels like she's trapped in herself, breathing in her own sour air. That's the title. And I feel like we have to talk about the author a little bit. This is the only novel written by Sylvia Plath. Actually, that might not be true. I think it might be true that she wrote another manuscript that got thrown out by her widow. Anyway, that's probably not that important. But this book came out under a pseudonym a month before she committed suicide. And the book is clearly at least semi-autobiographical, or probably reflects a lot of how she felt, as she was also having a major depressive episode. Her work was largely poetry, for which she's, I think, received a Nobel Prize in Literature. I think I think people highly regard her poetry. I think the book was a little more salacious in that its popularity also had something to do with the fact that the author committed suicide, or that the book was like a reflection of someone in this manic state. Which, yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. Yeah, I mean, if you like the book, if you're interested in it, if it's then reading a biography or reading more about her life or reading her poetry might be something you're interested in. Boo men? Yeah. I mean, this book doesn't hate men, does it? Did something go over my head? She has a love interest in a lot of the book, who is this guy who she found interesting in a superficial way, but then as soon as he took a liking to her and she got a little closer to him, she realized all the things she didn't like about him. And it's probably true that there are a lot of things not to like about this guy, but it's also true that this is a big problem with our protagonist, that she she finds the thing to not like in everything. Yeah, she basically hates everyone in the book, including her own mother, who's just trying to, survive, This reminded me to email my therapist to schedule an appointment. Yeah. I was nervous going into this book. I won't lie. It touches a lot of sensitive themes and ideas, especially if any of you have been touched by these things. Not necessarily yourself, right? But a lot of people know people who have gone through mental health struggles, and it's not necessarily a fun thing to read about. The patriarchy is separate from feelings about specific male characters. We shouldn't oversimplify. Yes. I think I was just, I think I was responding to someone at, I don't know. What was I responding to? Does she hate all men? That's not the point of the book. Is stream glitching? I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, I did like the book. I liked her writing style, but I guess if I think of the book in sort of two buckets, one being that very universal, relatable, I feel paralyzed by the choices in front of me, and I don't know what I want to do with my life. That juxtaposed against the deterioration into serious depressive episode feels very different to me. Because at least with that first half, I could sort of take a step back and look at that from the perspective of as me as a 36-year-old guy who maybe felt those feelings very deeply and thought those feelings were the end of the world when I was in my 20s. I could understand how someone could approach this book and just think of it as being the sort of angst and uncertainty of just being a young person, just becoming an adult. And I just don't think that's a fair or empathetic perspective to then levy or bring to the second half of the novel, where I feel like you just need to be more cognizant or empathetic of just how some people will struggle with mental health in a way that you just won't ever understand if it's not something that you have experience with, Is it super glitchy? How glitchy are we? Is this a me problem? You could try resetting the stream. Or refreshing. Reboot. Freezes here and there. I don't think there's anything I could do on my end. Nope. Anyway, those of you who read it seem to like it, so that's good. We're 2 for 2. You know what's weird? Both books we've read this year are roman à clef. What's the plural of that? Novels that are pretty much about real people, but they've changed the names from the names of real people. They're also, this and The Sun Also Rises are also like really classics. They're the type of books you might be assigned in high school to read that I just happened never to have read. So for me, this was also partly about, this sounds crude to say just checking it off the list, but it's just, if I have a list of books I want to read before I die, this is one of them, I think. Classics. Next month is totally different in that it's a modern book. Showed up on some best of lists last year. Did you like it? I liked it a lot. It reminded me a lot of someone. So that was kind of hard, though. And I don't think I want to get into it more than that, if that's okay with you. Ben is our high school English teacher in disguise. No. I had some great high school English teachers though, so shout out Mrs. Puchka. I hope you're still alive. I wonder if you're still alive. I'm already deep into this month's book and digging it. Are you already? I have a copy. First of all, I should show you. I got a very... Part of this is just I fetishize nice copies of books. I'm admitting something about myself here. So for all the books I pick for Booktendo, I usually try to buy a nice edition if I can find one. And I think this one is quite nice. It says illustrated. I mean, like, occasionally there's these pretty bleak black and white. Well, this is when she breaks her leg skiing with Buddy. With tuberculosis Buddy. But yeah, very nice copy. I think this is the crab meat in the avocado that gives everyone food poisoning. But yeah, next month is... Wait, is this next month? Or am I mixed up? I can't remember what I picked at this point. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, author of Normal People. Which I think is about two genius brothers grieving over their father's death, maybe? I know very little about it other than, again, that it showed up on a bunch of best of the year lists last year, at the end of last year. What did you think of Buddy and her and the double standard of their virginity? What did you think of that, Sriracha? So to explain to people who didn't read, she's dating this Buddy Willard character that she doesn't particularly like, but the moment she really decides she doesn't like him is when she finds out that, like, even though he's courting her, she asks him if he's ever done anything with another lady, and he admits that he had a little summer fling with a waitress, and he's done the deed. I think he admits this to her very shortly after he suggests to Esther, our protagonist, that maybe they should see each other naked if they're going to keep dating. And he gets naked, and she isn't thrilled with what she sees. And so she's like, yeah, I don't feel like taking my clothes off. And he just puts his clothes back on. And then she's like, hey, have you had sex with anyone? And he's like, yeah, this waitress, quite a few times. And she decides this makes him a big old hypocrite, because she thought he was like this innocent guy and he was pursuing her as if she was, I don't know, a little bit more adventurous than him, maybe. But yeah, she's clearly had it drilled into her that she should be pure for her husband and whatnot. Now she decides at that point that to make it fair, she should just have sex with somebody to even the playing field a bit. And sexual liberation is definitely a theme of this book. There's a meaningful chapter towards the end where she goes to a doctor to get what do they call it in the book? I think it's her getting a diaphragm, or her just getting a form of birth control, being a very meaningful moment to her that her psychologist or that the doctors at the mental institution are supportive of her doing. And it kind of reflects this moment of her actually sort of caring about herself again. So I think it's... yeah. She compared it to a turkey gizzard, and I laughed so hard. She compared what to a diaphragm? if she was totally following norms, she would have accepted his lost virginity. Yeah, I think she says like, oh, I went to speak to my other girlfriends at school, and they just said, oh, boys are just gonna do that. We sort of have to accept it. Oh, she referred to his penis as a turkey gizzard, or more likely his testicles, I assume. You got droopy ball buddy over here. We got Buddy Willard with the droopy balls. It's a pretty funny scene that he got naked. Like, I don't even know if the book's playing it for laughs, or it's just sort of like she's clearly not having a great time or super funny about it. Could you imagine, like, you're in a room with someone you have romantic feelings towards, and you're like, hey, we should just get naked. Just be comfortable around each other. And you get naked, and then they're like, no thanks. Her wanting to be fair shows she needs to assert her individuality and pressure she's under in the 60s as a woman to conform. Women's rights and all that. Yes, it's very... yeah, that's not like a hidden theme of the book. What do you feel, for those of you who read it, what do you think triggered her major depressive episode? Not to just trauma dump here, but like, there's a few references to the fact that her father died at a young age, and she was 9 years old. And at some point in the book, she sort of reflects on the fact that she doesn't think she's been happy since she was 9 years old. But was it like a gradual deterioration, and that's just like, this is just who she is? I think like it's triggered by some kind of extreme events, I guess, but it did feel like just all of a sudden, she's driving back to her hometown, leaving this cool opportunity in New York, not really sure what's next for her, and that very quickly devolves into like a major depressive episode. She is assaulted by a would-be date at a party the night before leaving New York. I think I was sort of fishing for how much you think that plays into the story, because the way that event is described is almost weird how not serious her reaction is to it. Not to judge how people react to being assaulted, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not described in the book as if it is like a major turning point. Although she does go home and throw all her clothes out the window into the night air, you know? I kind of think she was going to throw her clothes away anyway, you know? Everything was sort of working in that direction. Anyway, I guess as we're talking about this, it's strange to describe this as like a good book, like that you enjoy reading, since it's, it's heavy. I understand why some people are just like, I don't want to read this because this book just makes me sad, you know? And I think it is of its time. Obviously, there's things in it that wouldn't get published in a book written today. Casual racism and a lot of the more like sort of feminist aspects of it might seem, I don't know, almost things you can more easily take for granted now, I suppose. So what do you think? Would you rather stay at home and make some milk for babies and make sure dinner's ready for your husband? Or do you want to have to work really hard for people to maybe respect you for some reason other than your biology? Both sound bad? I think those are the only choices. Actually, can I ask you more sincerely about have you seen, do you guys get a lot of trad wife content on social media? Is that a thing you are exposed to? I feel like this is something I was hearing a lot about last year. And I've talked to Christine about this, and I think she's right that it's the pandemic had a lot to do with this idea that all of a sudden people were sort of reevaluating their relationship to work. And people stopped holding up the idea of your vocation sort of defining you. So people were at home just learning to make sourdough bread and living with their parents again, maybe a little longer than they normally would. And I think one thing that sort of came out of this is this sort of conversation around, like, you know, is it a happy and fulfilling life to just stay home and be a traditional wife? Although a lot of the people selling this idea on Instagram are clearly business people themselves, and that these were all just grifters selling the aesthetic of being a woman staying home and caring for her husband more than it was a sort of sincere or legitimate celebration of that lifestyle. Trad wifeism rose as the popularity of alpha males rose. Grift feeding grift. I think you're right about that. I think they do hold hands with each other. And I think both of them are taking advantage of people that are deeply unhappy for reasons that aren't solved by being more traditional. Seeing from my mom's perspective, she seemed to grieve the loss of her own life when she was a stay-at-home mom. That's thank you for sharing that, because that's the kind of hard thing to grapple with as a child of that person, eh? I think that is I think that's something in society we don't really think about a lot, is how many women have kids, and it's not that they regret or don't love their kids, but it totally kind of fucks up your life having kids, even if you are very driven or career oriented. It's weird seeing videos of trad wives, as I'm from Belgium and we have no culture of stay-at-home mothers anymore. At the same time, like, I mean, who am I to have an opinion on this? But like the idea of someone who finds a lot of joy and fulfillment in staying home and raising children, and you know, if you have a lifestyle and a relationship with a partner that can support that, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong in that. I think it is a kind of scary proposition for the person staying home to feel like your financial independence is maybe completely reliant on another person. I don't know how you solve for that. I guess it would be great to separate staged trad wives and real life stay-at-home moms. Sure, let's just speak about it as if there is sincerely a trend of people deciding they would be happy to stay home and raise kids and cook and just be home keepers. Let's say there's a bunch of people who sincerely feel that way. Do we take issue with that just out of principle? No, right? and stay-at-home moms aren't necessarily trad wives. That's a good point. So really, the trad wife is about aesthetic more as much as it is about function, I think. And I think that's what was so off-putting about this sort of Instagram trad wife trend from what I saw, is that they were selling an aesthetic of, speak to most stay-at-home moms raising children at home. It's not a glamorous, I've got chickens out in the yard and I have 2 babies hanging off my breasts and I'm growing my own herbs, and my husband, who's just a great guy, walks in through the door and he cherishes me like a queen. Like, they're really selling a fantasy here that I think is pretty unrealistic. Trad wives seem to align with religion a bit more from what I've seen. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if that's explicit or more just sort of implied in it being like, especially in a North American context, that the assumptions that's a sort of implied that it's a good Christian household. Ben wants to be a trad wife. I think we all have a little piece inside of us who maybe romanticizes that sort of thing. I don't mean being a woman. I don't really think about that. But more just like a hyper traditional lifestyle. I can understand that there's something attractive about that, especially from the male perspective, actually. But that's kind of like the same way I think it might be nice to be religious, to like genuinely believe in a higher power or heaven. Like I can go through the thought process of thinking that might be something I would want to believe in, but that doesn't mean I can bring myself to believe in it, Anyway, thanks for letting me think out loud about that without yelling at me. I aspire to be a trophy wife with no children, but I need a wife for that first. Well, good luck with that. But wait, if you're the trophy wife, what's your wife? Is she like what's the foil to the trophy wife? The bread winning wife? A sugar mama? You're looking for a successful lady who just wants you to be your arm candy. She's just wife. Your trophy wife, you want wife. You want a wife. A bread wife. But you're at home making bread, so that's confusing. Wait, if you're a trophy wife, are you at home making bread? Or do you expect your hardworking, rich wife to come home and bake bread for you? Because we might have to have a conversation about expectations versus reality. Silly munchkins. Hot body, young, 0 kids, knows how to cook and clean. What is this, like your Tinder profile? I just want to pin this message with no context. I thought you were describing Christine until we got to the last part. Knows how to cook and clean, I want to talk about, next. Okay, thank you for reading. For those of you who read, I hope you got something out of it, even if you didn't enjoy it. Next month is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Confirmed? Let me just check Discord. Also, apologies for shifting the dates of book clubs. The last 2 months it has just made sense to push it to the Monday. But Where's our book list? Yes, March is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Currently, stream discussion is scheduled for Sunday, April 6th. Let's try to stick to that so that book stream can be its own stream and not a Monday night stream. Christine often streams the last Sunday of the month, so that conflict just kept happening. So if it's the first Sunday of the following month, I think that's more doable, usually. This book is a little bit longer, maybe? How long is this book? I have 442 pages. 442. Slightly smallish print. So that's, yeah, this is a pretty longish book. Beljar I read in just the last few days. So it was very readable from that perspective. We need a chickpea gang. We are the chickpea gang. But Silly Munchkin, if you know any people with hot bodies, young, 0 kids, knows how to cook and clean, tell them to join the club, okay? Anything is short compared to Stephen King. Anything is short compared to... you read Infinite Jest last year. Come on. We can read a little intermezzo. Okay. The Oscars. Do you want to talk about the Oscars? Should we talk about the Oscars? I had a good time watching the Oscars and, you know, chatting about it a little bit on the Discord. Big night for Anora. Are we going to talk about the things that bothered us? I'm a little bit with you, Shan. What bothered me about the night? First of all, I know at least one person here was very upset that Demi Moore didn't win. To the point where I actually don't know if they're here. I think they're that upset about it. Which I kind of get, right? It's so Mikey Madison won the Oscar for Best Actress for Anora. And I think it's a well-deserved win. Anora was a great film. It won most of the major awards on the night. I think 5 out of 6. And honestly, my pick for not thinking of any context or not thinking of not thinking of the theme of the substance literally coming into play here. Just judging based on the performances, I would have chosen Mikey Madison. But it was sort of like poetic in a cruel way that Demi Moore loses to a much younger actress after playing a role about how Hollywood doesn't value aging women. So I get that. At the same time, historically, I don't think the Best Actress Oscar has routinely overlooked older women to reward young starlets. Like, I don't think that's really a fair thing. Or at least in recent history. Like, who's won the Oscar for Best Actress recently? People like... I guess Emma Stone's a young person who's won. But I think we had Meryl Streep has won a bunch of times. Who else? I'm just gonna pull up Best Actress Oscar winners. So, Michelle Yeoh 2 years ago. I feel mean saying this, but not the youngest. Who won before that? Oh no, this is in reverse order. Jessica Chastain, Frances McDormand. Don't even know who that is. Renee Zellweger, Olivia Colman, Frances McDormand. Oh, I know her. Brie Larson for Room. Julianne Moore. See, it's not just a bunch of very young people. Kate Blanchett, Meryl Streep, Jennifer Lawrence, Natalie Portman. Like, if you were to plot the age of Best Actress winners, I don't think you're going to see a bunch of, like, way too young people. I know Frances McDormand. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That was a miserable film. I didn't recognize the name, and I haven't seen Nomadland, so there's that. So anyway, that was one story on the night. Another story was Conan O'Brien was mostly a fine host when he wasn't being self-deprecating about himself, which is the thing I don't like about Conan. Frances McDormand has won Best Actress 3 times. Huh. That's more than Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep's been nominated 17 times. What else was weird about the night? Kieran Culkin won. So I'll say this at the risk of being offensive, I guess. I thought the strongest categories on the night were easily the 2 male acting awards. So like for me, I understand the hurt feelings from those people way more than the female acting categories, to be honest. I think there were like at least 4 people who deserved the Best Acting Oscar in a way that I can't really say that about the 2 female categories. Ben hates women confirmed. Yeah. Hard disagree. Do you disagree, Hannah? That's okay. Did you think there was a like super great performances in like supporting actress? I still haven't seen I'm Still Here, so it's fair to say that's a big blind spot for me. Even if I think that's an amazing performance, to me that just leaves Mikey Madison and what's her name? Fernanda Torres. Like Cynthia Erivo is very talented, but I don't think that's an amazing performance in Wicked. The Carla Sofia Gascon in Amelia Perez, I do not think is a performance worth celebrating. And Demi Moore, I appreciate as sort of a legend, but I also don't think her performance in The Substance was as amazing as people just wanted to celebrate it given her history and context. Whereas for me in the Best Actor category, I truly think all of those people gave pretty incredible performances. That this was a year where we were pretty spoiled in that category. Because we had our winner, Adrian Brody, who gave maybe the most obnoxious Oscar acceptance speech I've ever seen. And in the moment, I was sort of reacting this way, and I think people were telling me I was being mean about it. But I've given it some thought, and I think it was pretty... award shows are just self-indulgent by nature, but it was particularly bad. It was incredibly long. He threw his gum at his wife. Yes, he throws his gum at his wife. An early part of the speech that was basically about how to be thankful for these opportunities you don't know if they're going to come again. At one point, it almost seemed like he might have been subtly digging, or that a comment might have been directed at Timothée Chalamet in that moment, who, when he recently won a SAG award for his role as Bob Dylan, kind of came out saying, he wants these awards. He wants to be one of the greats. At one point, it kind of seemed like Adrian Brody was speaking to that arrogance a little bit, maybe. Maybe I'm projecting. But anyway, it was an incredibly long speech that didn't even say a whole lot. And then at one point they start playing the music because he's been speaking for already a few minutes. And he goes, "Don't play the music. I promise, like, I've done this before," which is pretty arrogant. Like, yeah, you've won Best Actor before. But you're like, "Don't worry. I know how this works. I've been here before. I'll be quick." And then he proceeds to talk for like another 2-3 minutes. The whole thing was incredibly off-putting. And I'll admit, he gave an incredible performance in The Brutalist. He is great in that. I guess I haven't seen him in a whole lot of things, but it's kind of funny that his two roles that have gotten such acclaim are very similar thematically. But no, I try not to let things outside of a movie affect how I see the movie, but it certainly changed my opinion of Adrien Brody, this pretty awful acceptance speech. Super arrogant in a way where like you think you're not being arrogant, but you are very arrogant, you know? So that was kind of weird. That was a weird moment. That would have been tough if you're someone who was really wanting that award, like a Timothée Chalamet. That must have been very hard to sit through. And man, Colman Domingo. I only watched Sing Sing the day of the Oscars in the afternoon. And he might have had the strongest performance out of all of these people. And I guess this is a weird thing to talk about art in this way, like who's the best at it. It's a pretty funny Marlon Brando interview where he's complaining about how it's a very American thing to like want to say who the best actor is or artist, and like forcing a sort of meritocracy onto it. But anyway, I guess my original point was when I look at all the contenders for Best Actor, Adrien Brody, Timothée Chalamet, Colman Domingo, Ralph Fiennes, and Sebastian Stan, those are all like masterclass performances. Like any of those 5 people could have won the Oscar, and you wouldn't have been able to say that was a weird choice, I think. I'm glad The Brutalist got some love in the other categories too. It won for, cinematography. Hey, I would love to hear your thoughts on I'm Still Here. It's the only film up for major awards that I did not see yet, because the only way of seeing it was in theaters. And I think it's only in the independent theaters where I live too. So I'm going to have to seek it out. Or I suspect it will be streaming pretty soon. So I'll happily pay for that. I wonder if the culture in America right now made a difference with Sebastian Stan not winning anything. I mean, The Apprentice was good and he is excellent in it, but I don't think anyone is shocked that didn't win. Did Pamela get anything for Last Showgirl? I don't think The Last Showgirl was nominated for anything. Nor was Baby Girl, the Nicole Kidman one. I wish he was nominated for A Different Man instead. Sebastian Stan. Yeah, I still need to see A Different Man. Actually, I put up a pretty weird list of potential movies for this month, for March. Originally, I thought the theme would be Genius, but I've decided March doesn't really need a theme. But no, that's not right. Here are some movies I'm considering, or I put up as movies we could watch. So some of them are just movies that got Oscar consideration that I still want to see. Some of them are just random movies I've thought of recently that I haven't seen. I think only one or two movies... There's only 2 movies on this list I have seen. One of them is the conversation melody. I thought of that because Gene Hackman recently died. Although we're not sure how recently. Anyway, the list is A Different Man, The Accountant, After Sun, Amadeus, Better Man, The Conversation, or The French Connection. I think one of the two. I'm Still Here, Mother, Pawn Sacrifice, Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Starship Troopers. I'd probably pick the French Connection over The Conversation, Uma, because I've seen The Conversation, great film, recommended if you haven't seen it, but I've never seen The French Connection, which I think is the role Gene Hackman won a Best Oscar for, I think. So I'd watch that. And also, as we were talking about The Bell Jar tonight, or as I was finishing it, it reminded me of... I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest when I was very young. And it occurred to me that that might be a nice movie to rewatch at some point. Anyway, you can go to Discord if somebody wants to drop a link and vote on this in the Film Tendo general discussion post. It's a pinned comment. What's leading so far? People want to watch Better Man, the Robbie Williams monkey biopic. People want to watch Amadeus. Nice. Never seen it. It's a classic. I've never seen it. People want to watch I'm Still Here whenever that comes out. And people want to watch Mother. Mother is sort of like this... I'm a big Darren Aronofsky fan. And Mother is a movie I've mentioned wanting to see for months. And every time I do, at least a few people hate the idea. So I think it's kind of funny. I kind of like that I can keep bringing it up, and I think I've put off watching it for that reason. But I kind of want to watch Mother. I kind of want to get down with Mother. I think I could watch Mother this week even. I think I need a break from movies tonight. I don't think I'm going to watch a movie tonight. But I could start putting some dates to these movies. So at least the top 4, I think we have to do. So that is Amadeus, Better Man, I'm Still Here, and Mother. Starship Troopers and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest would be Great Book Tendo, Film Tendo crossovers. With the book. Are you saying they're book are you saying like we could read the book and watch the movie? At first I was trying to make a connection between the book we just read and Starship Troopers. Or another book we'll read and the movie Starship Troopers. Melody says, you want the MILF. Are you referring to Jennifer Lawrence? In Mother? I haven't seen Mother, so I don't really... Does she play a MILF? Is it a romantic comedy? We should watch Girl Interrupted tonight. That's not a bad idea. I just don't think I have it in me. I think I need a little break from the depression, you know? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is my favorite. Silly Munchkins. Maybe we should watch that for your birthday. Is there a version of Better Man without him as a monkey? I think that'll come out on the Blu-ray. Girl Interrupted is super gory and disturbing. Yeah, I can't handle that right now. I watched some really good movies lately, but also some pretty tragic. I watched Nickel Boys the day before watching Sing Sing. And I think Sing Sing, incredibly beautiful film, incredible performance by Coleman. And it had a sense of hope and optimism to sort of pull you out of how hard it could be just getting through the day in life. Whereas Nickel Boys to me was like, I can see the value in art that is just showing you the worst of people in society. But man, I struggled watching Nickel Boys just from the perspective of just almost sounds like sort of cowardly to say, but like it's kind of like watching Schindler's List. Like maybe one time in your life you'll watch it and be like, I don't know if I need to watch that again. Like it's important that I know that exists and that's happened, and I appreciate someone trying to use art to talk about it, and because it's important to talk about. But I don't know, man. Nickel Boys was just an incredibly sad movie, I found. It was very good. I mean, I had some criticisms of it just as a movie. I didn't love some of the stylistic choices they made, and especially of just even the decision for the movie to be told from a first person's perspective. I understand it conceptually. It makes a lot of sense conceptually, but 2 hours into a movie, I thought it actually sort of took away from the experience. I think you need a Disney movie, Ben. Mulan would be good, or Lilo and Stitch. Uma has not seen it. Uma! You know what? I watched Flow. I kind of half watched Flow because people told me Flow was the best animated movie of the year. Guys, maybe it's something wrong with me. I get it. It's stylistically interesting. It's a cute cat. It's a good story to share with children about how you might have to become friends or even family with people who might have been strangers. Like, I get how it works as a movie, but like as an adult person, I don't want to sit down and watch a cat on a boat with a dog and a bird that don't speak to each other. I am not a child. I am a man. I feel like I've had a few adults recently tell me I should watch animated films or even Disney films. And every time I do, I feel like I've been tricked into doing something. Do Menchie and Zyler talk? Yeah, all the time. I understand them. Can I ask you something? Like, I don't know how to ask this without being insulting, but like, is what you enjoy about watching animated films that it lets you enjoy something in a childlike way? Is there something just nostalgic about it, or is it like there's just something nice about like the simplicity of it? Like, the story and colors are nice. I guess I'm just not looking for that. I'm not saying it's impossible for an animated film to be a beautiful film that explores, that is like a work of art. But I don't know. I feel like I've been tricked into watching one too many animated films recently where I don't know what I should be getting out of it, but I'm not getting anything out of it. Iron Giant? Maybe I should rewatch the Iron Giant. I feel like that might be an exception to the rule. Christina, I think I saw you or someone make a pretty long post with suggestions of different animated films. That was you. And I appreciate the work you put into this, but when I saw this, that's when I started thinking about this idea that like I would hate to watch this movie that clearly means a lot to you just for me to be like, this just felt like a Saturday morning cartoon to me. Did you watch Wild Robot? No, because after watching Flow, which everyone said was brilliant or great, and me just feeling like I didn't need to see it, I don't really trust you anymore. Wild Robot is better. Sorry, Flow fans. Sorry, Flow fans. Sucks to suck. Flow was not great for kids. So who was Flow for? It's not for adults. Was Flow too scary for the kids? It's kind of depressing, like a big dead whale. Someone make Ben watch Grave of Fireflies. Yeah, not right now. I need a brief break from sad things. Okay, help me out with that. I hope Intermezzo isn't sad, and I hope Mother is a feel-good romantic comedy, because I think that's the next movie we're gonna watch whenever Uma and I decide we should watch it. Okay, Uma? Until then, I'm gonna go. All right, Uma, let us know, and we'll catch you on the flip side.